Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Hey, what's up? First in, Trail Dust, Shane Lalone, Transcendental Artist Studios, my fabulous co-host. John Burnell is in the shop today. Stephen Parsons, Paul Orchard, how y'all doing? What is up, my friends? Pardon my sinuses. I'm having a bit of attack this morning. Bortagov, good morning. How y'all doing? What y'all doing? What y'all been doing? Um, yeah, I had hey, Chris Frost. Curious how that hammer I sent you is holding up. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's the, uh, straight peen, I believe. It's holding up great. Now, I obviously don't use a straight peen regularly, but when I do use it, oh, it's great. Now, so I suppose we can jump into how was your week. We don't have Adam here, as most of you know. It is the Adam is on a bi-weekly schedule, so yeah, it's just me and Alex right now. Let's go with, how was your week there? What'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't too bad. Did just enough work to, I mean, well, way more than enough to get by, but yeah, I stayed busy. I got podcast stuff all caught up, which, sometimes does get away from me when I get busy, and it's like I realize, oh, yesterday was Wednesday. And I haven't even edited the episode that was supposed to go up yesterday. And, so sometimes I get a little bit behind. And yeah, I mean, like, heck, when a couple weeks ago, I was just in an editing frenzy, and I upload, and I was just about to upload another one. I was like, oh wait, this is next week's episode. I'm good. So yeah, I got caught up and got that done, and that's pretty much it. I didn't
Right.
really do a whole lot other than I kind of figured out what I'm going to do for my Rome project this month, and
Uh,
I'm gonna. I changed my mind. I was gonna do one of them little the little medallion things that holds the cloak, whatever, and I decided that's. I mean, yeah, I could do that, but I want to do something that I've always wanted to do, which is I'm going to stamp a coin. Like, and I don't mean like like inset. I mean like I'm going to make dies, and then
right.
cast a blank, and then put it in between the dies and stamp it, so it's like a raised surface Roman coin.
Like make
In the
a
done,
legit doubloon.
yeah, well, no, I mean like a Roman, whatever, or a Spanish piece of eight or something like that. That's an actual, uh, uh, um, yeah, it's a raised relief type thing.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do one, and I've never really been able. I always figured I'd have to really carve, do a lot of carving, and I've got a good idea of how to get it done without as much work. But yeah, there you go, coining. And so yeah, I got a plan with some dies, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think, or at least I'm gonna try.
Nice. I wonder who coined that phrase, coining. See,
But
comedy.
yeah, I do have quite a bit of coinage from ancient Rome. They back in the day they'd sell it on the internet. They probably still do, but yeah, I got quite some of them. Some of them were still of a high enough quality that I was able to identify them and the approximate years they were minted and whatnot. So, um, yeah, looking at those the other day, and I was like, oh, you know what? I should totally make one of these. And so that's what I'm gonna do.
Nice.
Except, I'm gonna make it with my touch mark, and then I'm gonna use Roman numerals for the year and stuff like that. So.
Right, right. Nice. Nice. Yeah.
How was your week there, Yamas? Did you get anything accomplished?
I burned about half the pile that I have ready to burn. I had my burn barrel attached to my blower motor from the forge, and I turned it basically into an incinerator. Like I got it going and got it rolling, and it was at the point where I was throwing in pretty much logs, like big chunks, like 18-inch by like up to 4-inch, 5-inch diameter logs, and they were gone in an hour, like gone, ash, dust, so it's like a feeding. But I was trying to just have a chill burn day where I just light the thing, set it up, and not work too hard, just burn through the pile, drink a couple beers, listen to some tunes, play around on the internet. And it's like I got it going, and I'm like, I guess I'm just gotta feed this thing or it's gonna go out. um Yeah, pretty much a wood-fired foundry. I threw a glass bottle in there, and it's now a puddle in the bottom. Um, that I'm gonna have to chip out or leave. But yeah, one thing that I might do with that, knowing that it's like that, is throw my scrap wire pile into it and see what happens. Burn off all the insulation and everything, and if it turns to slag, so what? I'll take that and
Well,
turn that in for
I
recycling.
was gonna I was gonna say, it's gonna smoke like you're burning a tire. But if you, I've never tried that with a forced air tire. I mean, if you got enough air, it may
Oh,
not
it'll
smoke so
it'll
bad.
still smoke.
Oh, will it?
Yeah, it'll still smoke. But what I'll probably what you do with that rural, what you do with that is you wait till the sun sets and then you throw it on.
Yeah, yeah. That way nobody sees it. No, I get you there. I know I tried that when I was telling you about that ore smelter that I made for
Yeah,
roasting the ore. I'd fill it full of apatong, that's what our trailers are decked in, is apatong. And we had a bunch of tore up boards, so we bought a whole thing of apatong to redeck a trailer. And I had all of it sitting there, so I'm just throwing it in the barrel. And at first I filled the barrel up, and I got the shop vac going in the bottom, and throw some gas. No, not gas. I used a torch in the bottom to try to get it kicked off. And man, for it takes a little minute to light. Well, it gets lit, and then it's just this thing of white smoke just billowing up out of this thing. And I mean, and I live in Wyoming. I lived a mile from the highway in any direction, so it was a mile
yeah,
back to my house. And I swear the smoke made it all the way to the highway before it lit. And I mean, before it lit off. And when it lit, I mean, it was like a whoomp. It was a big whole whoomp. And then there's a flame shooting like 6 feet straight up out of this barrel, and it sounds like a jet engine going. It was so cool. I was like, that was so awesome. And then,
right.
like 20 minutes later, the entire barrel is glowing red and it's starting to collapse under the heat. And I was like, hmm, I may have overdid it just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I know people are saying not if the wind is blowing to the neighbors for me, but nearest neighbors to me, they're across fields, so screw them. uh, Other news for my week, I got um, woohoo, a new boom mic. So yeah, this is going to be crazy on the audio. Uh, so yeah, it's a more professional setup, and that should make the um, live stream sound better, and B, make our podcasts more professional sounding. Because what we're doing in the background is separately recording our audio, and then Alex will splice that all together, doing more work. I swear I'm gonna have to need to start paying him, but doing more work, and yeah, so make our podcast sound a little bit better. And also, I believe we have Mr. Sam Towns will be joining us to discuss our topic today. Whenever Sam gets in here, I don't know. Oh, I heard a
Who,
little
me?
tickle. That sounds like an Aussie.
I gotta fill in for Adam.
Yeah, we gotta have that Australian twang. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's it. Gotta have an Australian on the team.
So how was your week there, Tom? I mean, I read Thomas Goodemood's name, Sam.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah. Having the name change was, the really interesting part. Yeah, no, it was good. Hectic and hot. But I did get a lot done. Worked on some hex hawks and some hammers and a bunch of other stuff, making a bunch of preparations for Perth Knife Show, which is quickly approaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually. I just saw Adam there in the chat go Sam, and I know in the background he's going, "You mother." I'm off.
I'm taking your spot for tonight, Adam.
Gotta have that Aussie.
That's it. Yeah, no, otherwise it's just been, same old, just trundling ahead.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know Sam is of Sam Town's Bladesmiths. And that's his YouTube channel, and he does with Alex Norton the Forgecast podcast, which is I believe the #1 rated blacksmith/bladesmith podcast on all the podcasting programs.
Correct. Yeah, we are currently still the world #1.
Yeah, so celebrity status up in here. Now,
also resident steel nerd.
Yeah. Which kind of brings into our topic, because we're doing, as most of you know, through this year, we're doing ancient civilizations, and last week we did the rise of Rome. Next week will be the fall of Rome, for a time period, and that brings that in between period is that switch from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age. So what a fitting metal to discuss this week is early iron. So there's going to be quite a bit of history and quite a bit of, I'm sure, metallic compounds and procedurals and stuff. I know Alex has gone through and written up a lecture for us, and between that and Sam and with their nerdiness and my comedy, we should have a pretty decent show on this today.
Yeah, I mean, when Alex mentioned that you were doing Roman iron, I had to jump in because early Iron Age and Iron Age like metal making is kind of my area of expertise. So
yeah. And before we do get started on, I will say this, that it is a little known fact that iron is actually not of this earth. It was brought here by aliens to help build things like the pyramids and stuff. And there is proof if you look for that.
Oh God! Please no. Please.
Or is that nickel? I'm just trying to get a rise out of. I'm just trying to get a rise out of Adam.
As funnily enough, is actually iron is the most populous element on Earth.
I think it's like 50,000 ppm.
Well, yeah. The thing is that the entirety of the Earth's core is an iron, or like we believe a large proportion of the Earth's core is molten iron. Like the iron we have access to is actually an incredibly small amount in comparison to the amount of iron that actually exists on the planet.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. There's the best we can figure, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. The diameter of the liquid core, and then inside there's a solid core, and inside the solid iron core there is a core that is largely uranium and plutonium. And the heat, the heat created from the radioactive decay of the uranium core is what keeps the liquid iron core liquid, and why our core has not cooled as much as the way the other planets' cores have. Mars, for example, its molten core solidified maybe 3 billion years ago, and without the molten core, you lose the magnetic field, and without the magnetic field, you lose your atmosphere. So,
Yeah.
lucky for us, we've got a nice little uranium stockpile down in the middle, keeping everything warm.
Got to thank those isotopes.
That's right. And I done been through all that uranium stuff now. Come on now. that is a long decay chain. All right.
Uranium fever done and got you down.
Yeah, right. So I originally I was going to talk about the soft iron that was used at the beginning of the Iron Age, which is not quite the same as like what we consider iron. What we consider iron now is largely cast iron, whereas the iron back then would have been just basically elementally pure iron without all the carbon in it, and a lot of times it could be obtained from iron ore. Even just on accident, sometimes if you got a fire too hot and it would burn out the slag or whatever, and then you'd wind up with like a little spongy iron thing. But I got a bit of a thing to read here on the kind of the history of it, but it's not so much iron as it is a kind of a theoretical on early steel usage. Going way back as far back as like 4000 BC. So not only did they have iron, they accidentally had steel. I mean, they didn't know they were making steel, but they're like, hey, if we throw this rock in the fire and cover it up, it comes out better than if we don't. Something like that. Anyways,
right.
Let me get to this lecture here, and I'll try to what do you call it? Condense it a little bit, and I've read through it twice. I was going to transcribe it, and then I just realized no. So here we go. So during the Hellenistic era, iron was considered a precious metal by Alexander. During his world tour conquest, Alexander gave his generals instructions to seize any iron found. Strangely, it was not for its merits in weaponry that it received the status of precious, but instead for its application to lapidary work. The polishing of facets on precious stones, especially diamonds, is facilitated by holding the precious stone to the flat surface of a rotating metal disc. The disc is coated with a fine abrasive that is embedded in the metal, and for polishing diamonds, the abrasive is diamond dust. However, only rotating platters made of iron can hold the diamond abrasive without the abrasive being plucked out during the polishing of diamonds. So, an interesting idea of why they valued iron. Iron is no longer considered a precious metal, but its production and application in modern industry ranks it as the single most important metal in modern engineering. In its modern applications, iron is alloyed with carbon and other metals to produce a wide variety of alloys we call steel. It has been traditionally accepted that steel was not a metal alloy found in the ancient world, and to refute this traditional theory, a background on the origins of iron smelting and explanations of modern alloy definitions will be provided. And I am not going to go through the iron or the alloy definitions because we're on top of that. Since steel is an alloy primarily of iron and carbon, any discussion of the alloy must address the background of iron. Iron was known to exist around 4000 BC when it had been pounded into shape, but the source of that would have been meteorites, celestial iron. The smelting process was probably not used at that time. Further evidence for the celestial source of this is in the chemical analysis of artifacts and its high nickel content. And the high nickel content is typical of meteorites, and it's also why these artifacts don't rust. They've survived considerably well, and we will be getting into some of those in another civilization that we'll get into maybe in a couple months. I'm not sure. Anyways, originally smelting of iron is given several different origins, but generally considered a serendipitous result of the juxtaposition of iron ore and heat. Some suggest metallic iron was found in the ashes of campfires built on outcroppings of iron ore, but considering the required heat, this is probably not very likely. As for iron, the most plausible theory seems to be one put forward by a fellow named Atchison. He suggested that copper and bronze smelters who found iron in some of their melts when the iron ores got mixed with copper ores. This theory is all the more feasible as these people would be the only ones to have the facilities to produce the required heat as well as the skill in ore production. Whatever the actual origin of iron smelting is a well-known process by the end of the second millennium BC. Numerous quotations are found in the Homeric poems from 880 BC referencing the elements of iron, and Herodotus makes reference to it in his history published in 446 BC, and Aristotle from 350 BC attributes the source of iron to mines in Elba and the Chalybian, and I've tried to pronounce that 6 times and still can't, mines near Ambus.
Chalybian?
Huh?
Chalybian?
Chalybin. I don't know.
Chalybian.
Okay. By Roman times, the process of iron smelting was well known, and Mediterranean Europe could be considered well into the Iron Age. And that's, we were talking about like Rome was founded in what was it? Was it 476, something like that? And the Iron Age basically started around 500. So a quarter of a century before Rome was founded. So iron was in fairly common use by then.
Funnily enough,
what's that?
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So the melting point of pure iron is like 1540 Celsius, and that even by Roman times, your furnaces were not producing heat much over 1100. Smelting of iron, unlike the smelting of lower melting point metals, copper, zinc, tin, did not involve the iron turning into the liquid state. Instead, it was a solid state conversion requiring chemical reduction of the ore. Ore was placed in a pit and mixed in a hot charcoal fire. Air was forced into the dome-covered structure via bellows through a fireproof clay nozzle called a tuyer. We all know what a tuyer is, don't we?
Yeah.
After sustained temperature of 1100 to 1200 degrees Celsius, slag, oxidized mass, is called a slag, fell to the bottom, leaving a spongy mass containing the iron. The spongy mass is called a bloom by some. That sounds familiar. And the spongy mass was then pounded, usually while still hot, and more slag dropped out, and the metal was concentrated into a denser mass. This pounded metal was called wrought iron. Yeah. And all right, now here we give. Don't really care about all the alloys here, and considerable debate exists to the possibility that true steel production actually occurred in the ancient world. The ancients made a case hardened steel, but this was probably an accidental byproduct of the charcoal next to the bloom. It's possibly inappropriate to call it the carbon steels alloys made at this time and to be the foundation of the steel industry. It's much like asserting that a baby thrashing the piano next door is considered making music. Others also fail to consider the manufacture of steel by the ancients to be an intentional industry. Although the quality of steel produced by the ancients must have been poor and inconsistent, they must have strived to achieve a formula for it. The fact that they did not understand what provided steel its desirable properties is no reason to discredit the infant steel industry. Pliny, in his natural history book, 10-20-36, describes the process of tempering used by Roman blacksmiths. Although his explanations are incorrect, the fact it is made that a hardening process was known and used on iron-based tools. Pure iron, even very low carbon wrought iron, cannot be hardened. It's only by a knowledgeable process of introducing carbon that the tempering process would have any effect on tool hardness. Ignorance of the details of tempering continued into medieval times when various processes were attributed to impart the best qualities. Sherby mentions one smith who insisted on quenching the steel in the urine of a red-headed boy. we all know how much better that works, right? I found that to be absolutely hilarious. But I can totally see people thinking that, oh no, this is totally what did it.
Because to be fair, it's brine.
Well, it's water, mostly water.
Yeah,
not that salty.
Welcome, Aha. If we can take a moment to address Aha's quick question. Hey man, I want to start blacksmithing, but I live in a neighborhood. My question is how loud blacksmithing is, really is. Thanks already. It can be pretty loud, but the noise is one of the less concerns as much as it is the mess and the fumes. If you're using coal, the coal smoke will really annoy some neighbors. If you're using propane, it's not so much a problem.
If you want to get an idea of how loud it's going to be, grab a hammer, smack a piece of steel in your backyard.
Yeah. The best thing, the best thing to consider is the best advice anybody here can give would be to, if you're interested in doing it, learn it, make a few items, go to your neighbors, pass them out as gifts, and invite them to watch and hang out. They'd be much more inclined to not complain if they know and appreciate that what you're doing is for the community.
True.
So there's that. Don't let others stop you from doing what you want to do. But anyway, back to it. I'm so sorry.
No, quite all right. Yeah, I'd like to say I've only got a little bit left, but I'm about only 2/3 of the way done here. So, and I got lost. I scrolled my wheel, and I don't know where I was at.
The last we were discussing, you were talking about a ginger kid pissing on the steel.
Found it. Yep. Found it. Okay. So steel tools made by the cementation. Okay. Although the exact process was not understood, it was long known that the juxtaposition of wrought iron to charcoal increased the hardness of the wrought iron. Two steel making processes were known and practiced in antiquity: the cementation process and the crucible process. The cementation process involves heating wrought iron in contact with a carbon source, usually charcoal, in such a way as to exclude exposure of air. In the crucible process, wrought iron bars were melted in crucibles in which charcoal had been placed. Steel tools made by the cementation process of Roman origin were found in Britain dating to the 2nd century AD, and carbon content varied irregularly throughout from 0% to 1.3%. It was this irregular distribution of carbon that made the cementation process, or homemade Roman steel, less desirable. It is suggested that the real production of steel began as early as 500 BC in India. This material was referred to as woots. By Alexander's time, the production of woots was a well-established two-step process using the crucible method. And then, although woot steel and the Damascus steel manufacturing processes were probably introduced to the West around the time of Alexander, its significance was strangely underexploited, with one exception: the Damascus steel blade swords. To explain why Romans did not adapt or develop the woot steel manufacturing process and Damascus forging methods must be speculative. Roman furnace design made production of sufficient heat unattainable, is one possibility, but the 1150 Celsius maximum could easily be extended to 1300 using available technology. So, hit or miss there. Add to this the fact that the unreliable cementation process used by the Romans provided steels of medium carbon content, and this alone could have reduced the temperature to melt the steel to a range reasonably achieved by existing Roman furnaces. The fact remains that opportunity to make improvements in the steel industry existed, but was not used. Technical conditions existed during the Roman domination of Europe that have provided the Roman smiths the ability to produce the relatively high-quality woots type of steel. The writer suggests two possibilities for the failure of good Roman smiths to make a woots type steel. One possibility is the serendipitous actions of forging a lump of the cast iron would have inevitably formed at some point during Roman smelting did not occur. This is either because the Romans were always fastidious about keeping the unmalleable stuff out of their blooms, or they simply did not experiment with the dirty, hard little buttons that would occasionally occur in the furnaces. There you go there, Yamez. You were telling me about those earlier. A second possibility might be that the suppliers of the woot steel kept the processes secret from their Western customers. And such speculations are not without precedence. The Inca of Peru found no occasion to merit the invention of a wheel, And the Chinese did not reveal the secret of the source of silk to their anxious European customers until 552 AD.
Jerks.
And that's pretty much all I got. I mean, there's
Yeah.
more that goes into the usage of the woots in Damascus, and why did they only use it in their blades and not in like for springs and stuff like that, where it would have been way more desirable. But really, they only utilized that really good steel for weaponry. And
Yeah.
Actually, hilariously, one of the things that doesn't discuss is the ideological challenge towards smithing differences. One of the main key reasons during the Crusades, from like documented accounts from the period, was that many English smiths would refuse to use what they considered heathen sorcery to create their, much more effective steel. Because, ideologically they were opposed to the Saracen way of life. And, ideology is something that's played a really big kind of factor in human history in general, but especially in smithing, we find that quite commonly.
Right. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. But, I mean, it kind of, well, I mean, because I kind of take for granted that the way the Romans just kind of like assimilate. I mean, like somebody put it last week, they were like the Borg. They just kind of assimilated everybody. And
they do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good analogy.
Yeah, it was, and it's an effective thing. It's an effective thing.
You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
I mean, yeah, like that's not to be discounted.
You would think that they would be like, hey, that's some pretty good stuff right there. How are you making it? I need to take that home to the emperor,
I mean, yeah, but they also, like, there are historical examples of, for instance, Roman glass and Roman concrete that, like, were very, like, heavily controlled within Rome. That, like, Roman glass, there is several accounts of a glass that was apparently indestructible, that no longer exists. And, like, we found no other documentation or evidence from it because apparently everyone who talked about it or knew about it was immediately executed by the governing body of Rome because, witchcraft.
Yeah.
Talking about the Borg there. Sam Towns just went Borg.
Right.
I wonder what happened there, Sam.
Did I go robotic?
There you go. You went robotic for a good couple minutes.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Probably Discord being a bitch.
Matthew, Aimless Adventure Metalworks, kind of like we reached a milestone in fusion. The first thing said is about weaponry. Well, we created fusion bombs in the 40s. I mean, the hydrogen bomb was a fusion weapon. So we've known how to do that for almost a century. It's the milestone in fusion was a sustained fusion reaction that got more energy out than was put in, by the tune of almost 50%, which is mind-bogglingly high. So
I want to know.
That's neat.
Wasn't the Manhattan Project fission bombs?
Yes, the Manhattan Project was fission, but the after World War II and the continued testing of atomic weaponry, quite a few were hydrogen bombs, where the plutonium or uranium core would have been encased some hydrogen or hydrogen was, I don't know. Hydrogen was involved in it somehow in somewhere, so that when it blew, the nuclear reaction compressed the hydrogen so much that it would undergo fusion, and obviously it was a much bigger boom.
Matt saying, like, what they talked about, like future weaponry, considering this, new breakthrough in fusion technology. And I would like to point out that literally all of human history has just been in search of the next biggest stick.
Oh, yes. Of course.
can really get a load of me.
The moment they could put a board with a nail in it,
Right.
it's just
This is
we've
way
been
better
looking
than
for
just a board.
yeah, exactly, and then we've just looked for bigger boards with bigger nails in it. So yeah, it's kind of that thing. But rolling back to the Roman thing, one of the interesting things I find about the history of Roman iron production is the fact that Rome literally, you can see in the historical records, Rome's shift from bronze to iron. Because like while the Iron Age had started 50 years beforehand, iron wasn't in regular production until about 100 years after the Roman Empire was really set. That's why you have a lot of evidence of Gladii and Sparta that are bronze. Like a lot of fittings on shields, like scutum and stuff like that. Bosses and edging on scutum were bronze. A lot of armor was bronze. A lot of the original Lorica segmentata and Lorica hamata were all bronze rings and bronze plates. And you can actually see the transition period where they started to outfit units with iron Sparta and iron Gladii and stuff like that in the later stages of the Roman Empire. And as iron production became more and more industrialized, if you like, you saw an increase in the number of iron tooling being pushed out because bronze was obviously becoming harder to get. Because tin is actually an incredibly rare metal on the surface of the planet, even in ore form.
6%, I believe. Like
it's
what is it?
One of the most valuable things that Rome ever conquered was Britain and its White Cliffs, because the White Cliffs are mostly tin ore.
Right.
So people are like, why did they conquer Britannum or Britannia? It's like that's why. But yeah, the funny thing is that like of course as I was on this show a year ago, we were talking about wrought iron and blister steel, and then I made the note that literally all wrought iron contains some form of carbon, because it's very rare that you'll see pure elemental iron, because iron is incredibly reactive, like stupidly reactive, especially when in liquid form or semi-liquid form. So you're going to end up with some form of alloying content, some form of carburization in the smelting process, and so iron would have been steel would have been incidental, and as someone's the overall history would have been incidental for degrees depending on the size of the smelter.
I don't want to interrupt, but he's been assimilated. Sam, you've been assimilated again. Yeah, on the subject of bronze and steel and the shift and everything, a bit of research I was doing this morning, and that goes to kind of what you were saying, is the rareness of tin. The ingredients to make bronze is copper and tin, in about 88% copper, roughly, to copper to tin. And during war, there are obviously more iron mines and iron sources than there were tin sources. So if you could prevent the supply of tin to your enemies while holding the much easier to gather and the one-step process, essentially one-step process of getting iron, as opposed to the two-step process of getting copper, then going and getting tin, and then combining them, you'd have a better chance. So it was easier to get, although, if I recall, bronze was actually a better material than early iron. It was just more difficult.
The thing is that iron, as we've noted, is incredibly common on the Earth's surface.
Yes.
And so therefore it was readily available. It was pretty much everywhere. But yeah, early wrought iron, especially because when they were learning refinement and stuff like that, when you had massive slag inclusions, varying phosphorus and sulfur contents depending on where you were getting the iron from the ore from. Most of the iron they were making was probably
probably what? Yeah. I can see Sully's face, you know, and thinking about how they're gonna go edit this after the fact.
You better believe I'm leaving it all in there.
Oh yeah.
Mike really doesn't like this good.
Oh yeah, you're back. You're back. So you were saying probably was the last word we heard.
Early iron weapons were probably incredibly brittle and incredibly, like not great, as far as ductileness goes, the ability to hold its shape. Whereas bronze, being a uniform material because it's made by melting the material completely liquid, was more homogeneous. So while iron and steel may have been harder in general terms, the bronze was just basically, more robust.
Right. Yeah. That's like it was a better material, but it was more difficult at the time to control on the scale that they were, dealing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
because of the rarity of tin. I can't remember the numbers. I was watching something, in my research just this morning, and that's my memory of the calculated estimated parts per million of the planet, like 50,000 ppm for iron compared to like the 6 ppm of tin, you know. So it's like, or whatever number, I say 6, but like it was like a significantly lower amount. And then I was looking at a map of material sources of copper, tin, zinc, because copper and zinc creates brass, and then iron. And it's like iron mines were everywhere in the Roman Empire, everywhere. And tin, it's like if somebody were to cut off that supply of tin, all you had was copper, and then whatever tin supplies you had to make bronze. So it made it a very easy decision. You know what? This material, while it's not as good as it's brittle when we work it, blah blah blah. We can rely on it. It's a more reliable source. So yeah, pushing that Iron Age into practical use because of how abundant iron is, like you're saying. Talking about the economics of it, I guess.
Sam says he's currently getting about 400 millisecond delay in the connection because the Discord server is US based.
Oh, you know what? I take this moment to explain to the people listening and watching. Discord, our Discord server, the way they work is if you boost the server, using Nitro and server boosts and whatnot, it unlocks better tiers for the server itself, allowing better audio, better connectivity, and whatnot. So if you like what we do, one way you can help the show is to toss a Discord boost on the server and get us from tier 2 to tier 3, which is unlocks some pretty cool things for the server. But that'll take time before we have enough boosters for tier 3.
And Sam's leaving for the day. All right. So be it. So be it.
Love you, Sam. Thank you for popping in. appreciate the heck out of your insight, and yes, thank you for popping in. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of a roundabout, not a roundabout. That's kind of a good point for early Roman, early iron is comparatively to bronze. If it was just a straight up material comparison of like, should we use this over this? Nah. Yes, it was pretty much became the preferred metal because of the scarcity of the materials and processes needed to make bronze, and which forced them to, hey, we have this, wholly abundant material. Let's play with it. Let's see what we can do with it. And which led to what I would say, being the non-expert that I am, the Iron Age proper, So it wasn't just an immediate, here we have Bronze Age and here we have, iron. All right, everybody stop using this and use this. It wasn't a immediate switch.
Hey, wait a minute. We don't ever have any trouble with Adam on here. I mean, maybe it's just Sam's connection. I don't know, but I mean, because I don't know,
it could be. I mean, if you really want to think geologically speaking, I believe Sam's down near Perth, which is a very dry and arid. It's right off the central area, and I believe the Tropic of Capricorn goes right above Perth, and there is like a call it a slipstream over that, whereas where Adam is in Darwin, it's right up there by the equator, so there's a little bit less curvature of the Earth, and you have that equatorial stream which flows the opposite direction, which allows a signal to reach us better.
hold on, I got to find my waders right quick.
Science. Welcome back, Sam.
Getting deep in here.
Oh yeah. Goodbye, Sam.
In and out.
It's all about the curvature of the Earth. As you go around the globe.
Well, okay, but we all know it's not a globe. It's actually it's more like a disc, right?
Oh no, it's not. Are we gonna have a flat Earth off here? I mean, that is where the term, you're pushing me over the edge here comes from.
Yeah, right.
But to be fair, in the flat Earth theory, the nobody can really fall off the edge because there's a circumference. Get it? The circumference, but it's a fence, circumference.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Ba-dum-dum. Strange Discord stuff. The connectivity issues are only in the chat. That's rough. We'll get it all figured out at some point, Sam. But yeah, so it's a early metallurgy and how it affects and or affected the rise of human civilizations it's an amazingly robust field of thought. It's filled with provable facts, semi-provable theories, wild speculation, and everything in between. Like, you have people who are so dead set that it is impossible for the human mind of that day and age to be as complex to come up with the tooling to do some of the stuff that they did, that it must have been aliens. I'm not discrediting any of that, but I'm also not going to entertain any of that, other than a handful of jokes, I
I
won't poke fun of anybody that thinks that aliens built the pyramids, but also, present or posit the idea that, don't discredit the intelligence of early humans. Hey, what?
No, I wanted to ask Sam while he was in here. I wanted to touch on something, but he bounced before I got a chance. But he's still in the, as far as I can
If he's
tell,
still in the
still in the
chat, yeah, we could read what
yeah.
he says in the
I
chat.
wanted to find out if he was familiar with the book De Re Metallica.
I'm sure he is.
Being a metal person, I mean, I know, I touched on that last week. That was kind of my focus of me finding out that a lot of the stuff that was in De Re Metallica was all information that was learned, during the Roman period and the early Iron Age. And anyways, I was just curious if Sam was familiar with that book, because I found it quite an interesting read back in the day.
Sam probably has a copy of the De Re Metallica. Yeah, I told you he does.
Yeah, there you go.
De Re Metallica is a great book. Wait, I got to do it in an Aussie accent. You're better at the Aussie accent.
Yeah, no, that's culture appropriation. I can't do that.
Oh.
Not with yeah.
De Re Metallica. I can't do it either. I suck at accents.
De Re Metallica. That was
That's
that
close. That's closer than I would have. That's
just
South Australia.
Sam's got a first edition. Yeah, you bet. What was that? 1556 or something like that.
Yeah.
For who? Oh yeah, and you know what? And since we're talking about De Re Metallica, yeah, they're fixing they got a tour going on this year. Tickets go on sale next Friday, and I'm gonna try to get tickets to Arlington for Sunday, August 20th, with Five Finger Death Punch. That's gonna be awesome.
Nice.
If I can get tickets, but I haven't seen them since '94, I think 94, 95. I saw them in Mannheim, Germany. So it's been almost 20 years. So
Sam Town says, I can't read Latin. I don't believe you.
Okay, yeah. That's a fair point. What do you call it? I can't read Latin. Well, I can often read a phrase in Latin and translate it just weirdly, because we most of us speak a Latin-based language. But yeah, as far as the De Re Metallica, I did read one that was in English, not not in Latin.
Yeah, that might be a good book for your shelf.
It'd be about the same as owning a first edition of Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. It's like, yeah, that's all in something I can't understand, but it's worth $50,000.
Yeah. Something you put on your shelf to be like, it's there. I have it.
Yeah, if I had a first edition of Principia Mathematica or De Re Metallica, I don't think I'd have them on a shelf. They'd be in a kind of like one of them, a nitrogen encapsulated thingy, and away from light. But hey, you see that's using the. It's cultural appropriation.
Yes. Five Finger Death Punch. I like them. They're good. They're good people too. I saw a few clips from a concert of theirs that there was a lady that was having an epileptic seizure at the front row, and the dude literally just stopped the concert, like told his band, stop, everybody give her room, and got the paramedics there or the security, the staff there, and they didn't know what to do, so he literally jumped down into the crowd, cleared the crowd, and took care of her until the paramedics could pull up, and then they got on with the show. It was like, wow, that's kind of amazing. But yeah.
Boy, talk about the show taking a hard left turn now.
Right.
Went from talking about a 600-year-old book to Five Finger Death Punch concert. So,
Well, because people in the chat are talking about Five Finger Death Punch, and you brought up that
no,
they
I
were
know, I
coming in
know,
with
I know.
Metallica. You know,
It is topical.
the tangential segues are hilarious in my mind. You know, like you could be discussing early Roman metal and end up discussing concerts, rock concerts. And you could trace the line of, talking about ancient Roman metals and with that the De Re Metallica. Oh, Metallica's coming to show who they're headlining with. Oh, Five Finger Death Punch. I went to a Five Finger Death Punch concert. It's just the direct linear line. It's like
It is an
6 degrees
interesting
of
game
Rome.
of word association,
6 degrees of the Roman Empire.
right?
Oh, I love it. But that's me. I'm all about I'm all about random segues and what's the word? Non sequiturs. you know.
Sure.
But yeah, so honestly, I think we kind of covered pretty. I believe the goal of the show is not to sit there and force feed people information. The goal of the show is to give them enough of a background so that they could hear something. And if they're interested in it, if they want to look further, they have a starting point, a jump platform, so to speak, of where they can go, okay, this De Re Metallica sounds interesting. Let me look that up. Or hey, this end of the Bronze Age and early steel sounds interesting. Let me look into that and try and find some stuff on it. And it's really an interesting way we do things and how we kind of help information seekers have a starting point. So and being blacksmiths, it's a really interesting take on history where we're not looking at it through like a geopolitical or a geographical sense of this is the boundaries of this civilization or this era. We're looking at it from a purely metallurgical look, metallurgical scope, so it's fantastic to have that. It's hard to research too. I don't know about you, Alex, but like I'm trying to research, like blacksmiths of early Rome, and it's like there's just so little information because there's so much other information that hotkeys into it.
Right. Yeah. I've come across that as well. It's like, I try to not just use Wikipedia because everybody can just open up a Wikipedia page and read the same damn thing that I'm reading. And so I try to find something that's not that. And sometimes, especially with Rome, that's really difficult just because there is so much information out there. I mean, so much. I mean,
Yeah, like
it's overwhelming. It really is. And trying to find something to only, that I have to condense down into less than an hour. It's really difficult. I mean, like, for today's show, I looked at about 6 or 7 different things, and I settled on the one that I did because it had a lot of information that I could get done in about 10 to 15 minutes. And it was a broader thing. And it also went in a direction I wasn't expecting, like, because the show was Roman Iron, and I wasn't completely expecting to do Roman Iron. And then I did my research, and I came across that lecture, and I was like, well, that's a really interesting lecture, and not just because it's like it went in a direction I wasn't expecting, but it also contained quite a bit of speculation. And
yes,
that's kind of why I liked it and leaned towards it, is because of that speculation, which is really going to be the topic of next week. So
yeah.
um,
Next week is really going to get into the speculative, what could have happened, fall of the Roman. It's going to be the Roman Empire and including the fall of the Roman Empire, as it pertains to metalwork. We're trying, like we're saying, is we're trying to keep the niche topic of our research to a specific field. Yet when I search, ancient Roman or early Roman metalworking, I get, how the Roman armies defeated the Carthaginians and how the Carthaginians defeated the Roman armies. And it's like, that's not what I'm looking for at all. The rabbit holes in the Roman Empire are deep.
Oh my gosh, they are. I mean, as far as like, I mean, it's the Roman Empire. To kind of touch on what Tom is saying there, the Roman Empire is probably the largest empire the world has ever known. Both in
By
not necessarily in population, because I mean, like, well, there
in
weren't that many
area.
people back then. Yeah, but in land mass, I mean, it was huge. I mean, and at its height, Rome had an estimated population of about 55 million people, and I mean, and that we're talking, that's 2,000 years ago. 55 million people. I mean, if we're not counting China, that's probably more than half the people that are in the rest of the world. Yeah, but the whole China area thing was, that was all closed off to the Western civilization at the time. But
Yeah.
As a nation, there, Eric, the Republic of Rome, the Empire of Rome, the Kingdom of Rome. I mean, there was a kingdom. It was a kingdom, then a republic, and then an empire.
Yeah, let's not forget from last week the very very early Roman empire. We call it the Roman Empire as a description of the entirety of it, but the very early Roman Empire was a collection of cities, a collection of kingdoms, and when they were formed into the Roman Republic was when so it started as a sprawling network of city-states, so to speak, and thus formed the Roman Republic, which then next week we'll get into how it actually formed the Roman Empire, what I call the Roman Empire proper, where it's properly an empire, with one
with an emperor,
with an emperor, and we'll get into that next week, and
primo whatever primo citizen.
Yeah, Citizen Prime.
yeah, Citizen Prime, the number one citizen.
Yeah, and we'll get into all of that, and it's going to make all shows this month are I believe, I think not next week, but the weeks after show is still a TBD, but I know at least these three shows, last week, this week, next week, will be a nice tie-in and be able to tie that, like I said, that jumping point for the metallurgical aspect of research for the Roman Empire. We'll tie it all into a nice, neat little 4-hour package.
Yeah, and I gotta say, next week is probably gonna go long. So
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get 2 hours out of next week at least. It's gonna be a gooder. I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And if
watch us get done in 15 minutes and be like, well, okay, that didn't go as planned.
It also depends on the possible surprise waiting on an emails and a few things, and seeing, depending on how that goes, it's going to be it next week may be a unprecedented event.
Yeah, we'll see.
Fingers crossed, but we can do a great show for you regardless.
Yeah, either way, I'm gonna have a blast with it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so moving on that, so that this week at least we keep it into an hour-ish. I would say firstly, Aaron Dennis, you are correct. The Iron Age started long before the Roman empires came along. Or before the Romans came along.
By about 25 years.
Yeah. with all of that, let's move into our final thoughts of the day. So, Alex, what are your final thoughts for the day?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Sure. Use your
So
words.
many.
So, right. There's so much out there about Rome, and it's really hard to nail down and just give you a little bit nugget of information here. A little, yeah. It's like I feel like what I do go over is insufficient because it's such a small piece of the big picture, and it's like,
Mhm.
and there's just not time to go over all of the ins and outs and the different, shall we
Connecting all the
say, the
dots.
different isotopes of metal. You know what I mean? Like, if you dig into a broader definition of the word, um, but it's fascinating stuff to research and just to read and read it, because I uh-huh um, yeah, uh shit.
Oh, we went off the
That
rails.
yeah, that took my okay. Dang it, Steven. Anyways, there are so many good nuggets of information when I go looking this stuff up, and just to have it kind of makes me sad that I got to pick something to go with, but at the same time I also find it exciting, and I have a good time, bringing that information to you guys, that maybe it's something you might not find if you were just going to look up the same thing, and that's a lot of what I go for, is finding that thing that you're not likely to find. Not
Yeah, not
likely, not
page
doesn't mean you
one.
won't, but yeah. Not some stuff that's going to be the first 10 things that Google shows you when you search the same thing I search. So,
I skipped to the last page of Google.
if you find this subject fascinating, by all means, look it up and check it out on Google Scholar, because you can get ooh, you got to, sometimes the language in Google Scholar gets a little bit difficult if you're not careful, but there's some good stuff in there. So y'all have a great week, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. And we'll see you next week for some speculative history.
Yes. As usual for me, it's, my final thoughts are always and always will be, gratitude to you, the viewers, you, the listeners, and to my co-hosts and guests. Huge round of applause for Alex there for putting this all together, and huge round of applause for Sam, who gave a whole bunch of nuggets of information, even though he was assimilated by the Borg a few times. We love having you here, and hope to have you back. We just gotta, figure out your electronics issues. But yeah, so I'm going to continue to do my best to research. This is all, I don't want to say new to me. I've research for me is kind of catch-22. I get so distracted because if I'm researching, I get yanked down rabbit holes, and you guys know it in the way I talk. I run through tangents like, most people run through underwear, I'll go through 6 or 7 tangents in a day, um, so, so yeah, keep listening, keep us busy, and we'll keep you entertained. I believe we have an ongoing challenge right now with the Roman Empire, is to create and post something in the Discord chat, either out of bronze or copper or iron, that would have been made and used in the Roman Empire, be it a weapon, be it surgical tools, or merely decoration, something of metal, and post any pictures or videos that you do in the Island Metal Forge Discord, and we'll be loving it. And link to the Discord server Forge chat is in the description of this video, and I believe it's thrown in the description of the podcasts as well. And let me see. I don't have a direct file of Adam's outro, so let me see if I can remember it.
How do
go
you
ahead.
not?
I haven't downloaded it. It's in the chat, and I would have to scroll up and search for it.
Yeah, no, there's some questionable things in there. So yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, I mean, somebody posted it in the Island Metal Forge chat a while back. And
oh yeah. Oh, that one's all right though.
It's just so far. I can't find it. But yeah, so you can find me here at Island Metal Forge at YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all those fun things just by searching Island Metal Forge. I mean, put me in Google, you'll find me. We do our show live on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern every week, and we record them and edit them up for podcasts that is posted Wednesdays, I believe. Do you 10 a.m. or do you have a time? 10 a.m. on Wednesdays.
When I get them out on time, they're scheduled for 6 a.m. Central on Wednesdays.
6 a.m. Central on Wednesdays, and you can find that at Anchor, Spotify, and Google,
Google Podcast.
Google Podcast. Not on Apple yet.
No, and it's
yeah. We're
don't
not
even
messing with
ask.
Apple. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we're each holding a big stick and threatening each other, and nobody's getting anywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take my podcast and go home.
And you can find Alex over at Transcendental Artist Studios at YouTube, Facebook. I think Facebook. You are on Facebook.
Yeah, no. I mean, not
TikTok,
under that, but
TikTok,
I'm on
Instagram,
YouTube, and TikTok.
Yeah, you're a TikTok. But
I'm the Thought Patrol.
So yeah, I appreciate all of you guys, and I appreciate everything that y'all do for us. So with that in mind, we will keep doing for you. So like, share, subscribe, and let people know what we do here, because the more the merrier. All right. So thank you all, and we will see you later tonight. I have my 6 p.m. live stream, and that I will be forging something fun. So let's do fun things tonight. All right. So with all that, adios, be safe, and good night.
See you next week.